This video is sponsored by Squarespace. I began my photography journey in 2012 when I started my own business, and I went full-time just 2 short years later. For the last decade, in one way or another, I've been making a living with my camera, whether that's with client work, weddings, or this YouTube channel. But more than any monetary gain, photography for me is my life's pursuit. It's the thing I love most in the world, and it's what I obsess about and I'm really passionate about. So I want to share with you 15 years of photography advice in 15 minutes or less. Picking one genre of photography will streamline your success, but make it a little bit less fun. When I started in this industry, the prevailing advice was pick something, whether it's portraiture or weddings or pets or landscape, whatever. Pick it and only do that, and then all other forms of photography are dead to you. Yes, if you dedicate your entire life to just one pursuit, then of course you will speedrun it and you'll get really, really good really quick. However, I think there is also benefit to taking the long way round. I've tried everything from astrophotography to underwater photography to infrared photography, street photography, portrait photography, everything. And I think there are little nuggets of advice and experience to be found in every single genre. So pick your poison. Streamline your success. If you know exactly what you're passionate about, go for it. Or take a meander and possibly explore more and broaden your horizons as a photographer. Print your work out more, even if it's small. I've recently bought a Canon selfie printer, and I'm taking it upon myself to just print out 1 or 2 of the best images from each shoot that I do going forward. And seeing your work in this sort of physical thing that you can hold in your hand rather than zeros and ones on a computer can make all the difference in the world. You can see very quickly, like, would I have this on my wall? Is this too busy? Is the edit nice? You can see things so much clearer when you print it out. And then you can see how far you've come, you can see what works and what doesn't, and I think it's a great practice. This is a weird one, and more of a note to self. I've got plenty of shots in my street and travel photography where I'm shooting the backs of people's heads. I'm generally more of a timid street photographer, so I don't really like to go out and get candid street portraits very often. If the composition warrants it, it's fine, but don't use this because you're afraid to try different things. I think going out and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone is super duper important, whichever genre of photography you're in. Don't rely on old habits. If you see a pattern emerging in your photography over time, then go out with the express intent to not do the things that you fall back on. Try something fresh and try to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Let the camera do most of the work for you most of the time. Of course, in certain genres of photography, like studio work or astrophotography, for example, you're going to need to know your manual settings inside out. And I recommend that you know your manual settings inside out regardless. But we've got great, intelligent cameras nowadays. And if you can leave your camera in auto ISO and auto white balance, and you can spend the rest of the time thinking about composition and the things that really will move the needle in your photography, I think that's always going to be a good thing. I think there's a lot of street photographers that only shoot manual, and that's fine. I personally like shutter speed priority. I like to know that whatever I'm shooting will be frozen in motion, and beyond that, I'm happy to let the camera decide. Consider learning about video, even if you have no intention of doing it for paid work or YouTube or social media. So many cameras these days have so many great video features that just aren't getting used because people don't know the fundamentals. I'm actually making a workshop on this called A Photographer's Guide to Video. So subscribe to my mailing list if you'd like some more information on that going forward. I think video is the most powerful thing that I've added to my life since and accept from photography. You can document your process and can share things online in an engaging way, but even sharing things like video footage from a holiday with just your family. Like, I took my mum and mum-in-law to Madeira and made them a little 2-minute video of their trip. And yes, they have photographs from that trip, but something about video and seeing themselves in motion and seeing the places that we visited moving and in video is just magical. So if your camera has any decent video features at all, I'd highly recommend taking the time to learn them. Lighting, composition, and ideas is 100% more important than what camera you have in your hand most of the time. Of course, if we're in very tricky lighting situations, or if we're doing something very niche, like wildlife photography, for example, you're going to need the right tool for the right job. But 99% of the time, if you have a good eye for lighting, composition, and a good idea and a story to tell, that is the important thing. So if you're sitting there now with a camera that's older or cheaper, and you sometimes come on YouTube and start to feel inferior because everybody on here is like, new thing, shiny thing, buy this, this is what you need. Sod it. Go out with your camera and do photography. Do what you love to do and just block out all the noise. And if you have a hankering to spend some cash, because it is our hobby after all, and sometimes we do have budget for these things, spend it on a course or a holiday or a workshop out and about. Like I did a kingfisher hide day with my friend Rebecca and learned an entire new sort of genre of photography. It was so much fun. I've got a dedicated video of that, which I'll link in the description as well. Spend it on experiences and knowledge gaps, and that will help you 10 times more than a lens you probably don't need. Lighting is probably the thing that beginner photographers overlook the most. I've seen it on YouTube all the time when someone posts a photo, it might be myself, it might be on another channel, and someone goes, "That's an amazing photograph, what camera did you use?" As though the camera is the thing that makes the difference and not the composition and the lighting, etc. I think photography can be broken down into 3 key elements, in my opinion. You have lighting, you have a subject, and then you have the general composition of the scene. And what really helped me is to think about it in those 3 elements and keep as many of those elements in your control as you possibly can. So for example, if you're out doing street photography and you see you've got amazing lighting and you've got a great composition but no subject, there's no harm in waiting for a subject to emerge. On the flip side of that, if you are a wedding photographer or a portrait photographer and you have your subjects, these are your clients, it's then your responsibility to put them in the place where the lighting is best and the composition is best, and that's research on your behalf of the best time of day and the best situations to be in. Lighting, subject, composition. If you think about it like that, that will elevate your photography so much. If you look at a photo and it's aesthetically pleasing, but it doesn't really tell you very much, doesn't tell you a story, you likely don't have a strong subject. So if you think about it in those 3 key elements and control what you can and manage the rest, your photography will come on in leaps and bounds. This is a weird one, but I do it all the time. Think about photography even when you don't have your camera. I was writing the script to this when I was sat in the dentist's office and things were just running a little bit late, and I was looking around the room and thinking about composition, and I took a few photographs on my phone just so, you know, for example, but you can do this in your head, you don't have to do that with your phone. Thinking, oh, you know, the lighting was nice in front of this chair, this would be a nice aesthetic sort of real estate shot, or how would I photograph this lamp and add a bit of depth into the scene by moving the cushion into the right space, whatever. Thinking about it all the time on your commute to work, or when you're, you know, looking out of the window bored, or in the dentist's office. There's always these little pockets of time where we can still be honing our crafts and thinking about things, even if we don't have a camera. Going a bit personal now. Photography has given me many gifts. It's enabled me to travel around the world and fulfill many a bucket list dream. But the gifts are much more than that. Photography gave me confidence. Now, you may not think it, because I think I've grown up to be quite an extrovert, but when I was younger, I would not answer the door. I would not go to the shop and ask the person behind the counter what I wanted. Like, I was so cripplingly shy. And whenever I went to like family events, the only way that I could cope with it and sort of engage with it was to take my camera, and I'd take candid photos of people and just sort of document it all like a little wallflower. And then I'd give the photographs to family and friends afterwards as like my little, I know I'm a shy weirdo, but look, have this nice thing. You would never see me without a camera because I was so shy. And over time, I used photography to force myself out of my comfort zone. I remember when I started doing family portraiture at people's houses, and I would sit outside in my car just panicking, thinking about, oh, what if I set the backdrop up wrong? What if my flash doesn't go off? What if I get my settings wrong? And I just forced myself to do it again and again and again, until one day it didn't feel hard anymore. I genuinely think I would be a completely different person than I am now had I not found my love of photography. Regardless of where you are in your photography journey, whether you do want to make money with it or whether it's just for fun, just don't ever take it for granted. I think it can open so many doors in so many unexpected ways. It certainly has for me. So I think taking a photograph and editing a photograph is sort of like a little pie chart. And there's no right or wrong answer, there is just different tastes. For me, I think taking the photo is about 70% of the job and then editing it is 30%. But you could be an absolute purist and be like, taking the photograph is 99% of the work and then editing it might just be to change a wonky horizon every so often. I think all of this is under the umbrella of photography. I don't think there's any sense in gatekeeping or thinking that one is better than the other. It's just down to what works for you. That being said, if you are correctively editing all the time, for example, if I go out and take 20 shots and one of them I might need to crop in a bit because it looks nicer, or I might need to erase a person that had just started walking in the scene, that's fine. Not everything is going to be in your control all the time. But if you go out and take 20 photos and 18 of them you are straightening the horizon, you are punching in, you are correctively erasing things, then this screams to me that you need to go back to basics. Go out and think, I'm not going to straighten a single image, I'm going to get it right in camera. I'm going to tidy the edges of my frame so that I don't have to edit anything out. Whatever it is that may be tripping you up, it's always best to get it right in camera. Shallow depth of field is horrifically overrated. And I get it. You get a new shiny lens and you're like, oh, it's a 1.4 lens, I'm going to shoot wide open for the rest of my life. Great. But shallow depth of field isn't what is very appealing, in my opinion. Depth is what people are looking for. And you don't need an f1.4 lens to add depth into a scene. Just how a shallow depth of field is overrated, in my opinion, I think depth is overlooked and very underrated. I think with photography, we need to remember that we are creating a two-dimensional image that's pretending to be a three-dimensional image. It's a flat thing, and we have to create a 3D effect in it to make it as dynamic as possible. And I love to do this with creating depth. I love shooting through things, having layers into a composition. If you think in that space as much as you do in the compositional space, you will start to level up as a photographer. There is no finish line in photography. I think you need to be a certain type of person to really be passionate about photography. I think you need to be excited to turn around and go, these photographs I took 2 years ago that I was so proud of are actually not that good. I think you need to have a humble attitude and see your own progression year on year and hopefully decade after decade if this is a lifelong pursuit, as it is for me. I think the goalposts always shift with photography and there's always something else to learn. You could still have infinite things to learn within one genre. If you take a broader approach like I do, then you've got so much more to learn forever. Forever and ever. I want to look back and go, that image was pants. If I was there now, I would do X, Y, and Z. I would edit it in this way. I would think about these elements. You've always got to want to strive to be better, and you're only competing with the old version of yourself, which is quite nice. I think, you know, stick some blinkers on, and as long as you can see that your work is improving over time, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. So if you're the kind of person that embraces that, then photography is definitely for you. If you're the kind of person that wants to complete the final boss of photography, it's never going to happen. What would the final boss be? Like sensor dust or selective colour? There is no final boss because there is no end point in photography. And I know, because I've been doing this for a while now, that next year, future Emily is going to be taking photographs that would blow present Emily's mind. And future Emily is going to be looking at the photographs that I'm taking today and going, you could have done that a bit better, couldn't you? But isn't that incredibly exciting to know that if I stick at this, that in 1 year and 5 years and 10 years, I'm going to be a better photographer than I am today. And I cannot wait to see what future Emily creates. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, and I love so much that I get to shout about a service that I use literally all the time on this channel. Creating a website with Squarespace is super simple, and the results look really professional as well. Like, I love the little animations on mine when I scroll down. I just think it's those little finesse details that make it stand out. And because mobile traffic is very important, it looks great on mobile too. So whatever you're passionate about, whether you want to create a photography portfolio or you want to write a blog about something that you're passionate about, you cannot go wrong with Squarespace. So head over to squarespace.com/microphonenerds and get started with your website. And then if you use the code microphonenerds when you're ready to launch, you will get a cheeky discount on your first purchase of a website or a domain. If you enjoyed this video and would like some more photography tips and nerdiness, then watch some of these videos next and subscribe for more.